What's up? Welcome to an episode of Honest Trailer Commentaries, where we're talking everything WandaVision. We're going to give you our behind the scenes thoughts and feelings. We're going to go into depth, into serious detail while we watch the Honest Trailer with you. Then we're going to do some cut scenes and jokes. Didn't make it into the final cut. We're going to respond to questions and comments from viewers like yourself, so keep them coming in the chat. Then we're going to tease you with next week's Honest Trailer. Hopefully, I'll get it right this week. With me, as always, Lon Harris, Daniel Radford. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Welcome to the Hex.
Oh,
what are
boy.
your
I'm
guys?
going to grieve throughout this episode just to keep things tonally consistent.
What is grief if not lawn persevering? What do you? What's your overall takeaway after you've seen all of WandaVision? How do you feel? How are you feeling about Marvel's first foray into television, the MCU at least?
I loved it. I really liked it. It was appointment TV for me, at least as much. I wasn't one of the people that stayed up until like midnight, but I definitely would like get up a little bit earlier so I could catch it before all the spoilers came. I really liked it. Again, this is another one of those things where it takes movies that maybe weren't my favorite and it adds context to them so I can go back and appreciate it. Like I have an appreciation for Age of Ultron now. And yeah, I just like when you take some of these, because Wanda's like a big character, but she's not like one of the big MCU characters. So taking her and getting to do a story on that's the kind of stuff that I live for as a comic fan anyway. It feels like this is her mini series. So yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great.
Lon, what do you think, you old curmudgeon?
This was a real case of like I think the premise here, like the concept when it's explained, is brilliant, like very clever, a cool thing to do with Marvel Comics. I really thought that the actors did an amazing job of like recreating these old styles. Like Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany and Catherine Hahn, they just slipped on like 50s and 60s and 70s sitcom banter like it was nothing, and that's not easy to do. They're very specific modes. So I liked a lot of stuff about it, but I did feel like the execution was just kind of off. The structure, especially of the show, felt really repetitive to me. I felt like it was like week 5, week 6, and the characters were still talking about stuff like I felt like was pretty clear by week 2 or week 3, and it just felt like it really dragged on. And then at the end, I'll admit that I think I didn't find it totally satisfying how like action oriented it became at the end. And the end just became like, let's tie this into all the other Marvel stuff and let's give you a big action finale, when a lot of the stuff that the show was doing and was raising earlier, I thought was like more interesting than Vision forehead laser battles.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly enjoyed the first half more than the second half, and I didn't mind the pacing because I just found it so enjoyable to watch them recreate sitcoms together and throw in the like one weird thing of the week. I could honestly have just watched them recreate different classic TV shows for 8 weeks and then finally bring in the outside world. So sadly, like I kind of got bummed every time we left the Hex and went into like more traditional Marvel territory of like, oh, here's the military base. Oh, they've got a plan. Oh, your plan's better than my plan. Yeah. No, it's going to be my plan. We kind of fell into that again. And but overall, like Danielle said, it was appointment television. Like I definitely wanted to know more. Did they pay off everything? You be the judge. I think that finale for me was like kind of like the pants fell down off of the clown and it tripped over its own clown penis. That's a weird metaphor, but that's how I
Very
felt.
Specific. Very specific.
I mean, it's a well-endowed clown. So
yeah. I felt like
that's not easy to do.
And I'm not asking, I definitely don't want my TV shows to be morally prescriptive and be like, you should feel this way about this person because they did this thing. But I do think it just, the show wasn't clear where it came down on Wanda at the end of the day. Like, and yes, I obviously she's now a morally gray character, but I feel like the show was bending over backwards to make the audience still on her side, which is fine. I mean, you can do that, but I just didn't. I felt like there was never the reckoning that she deserved. Like she got away scot-free with torturing a whole lot of people, and it's like, you sacrificed so much. It's like your boyfriend died. I'm sorry, like that happens. Like, these people are alive and have families, and I don't think it ever had it spent so much time with Wanda's grief and the processing of that. And it really pushed to the wayside, like, and minimized what she was doing to all these people, in my opinion. So I felt like it was kind of morally muddled at the end. in a way that I don't think was intentional.
I mean, I think this is an interesting thing for the MCU as a whole, because the MCU's kind of already had this conversation with itself. It was the Sokovia Accords in Civil War. It was like, here's the side that's like, no, superheroes do have to answer to authority just like anyone else. And then here's the side that's like, no, we're the heroes. We're the ones who should be deciding how to use our powers. And it's like, now that never got settled, it ended up becoming a personality clash between Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. And it's like, well, but that question is now still very much up in the air. And we really, like, we've kind of already dealt with it, but we really have not dealt with it at all. And I do feel like that's what Feige is sort of leading us into. Like, this is going to become a theme throughout Phase 4, I would suspect.
And it's always with Wanda, too. Like, get it together, girl.
Yes, well, she already had in Age of Ultron, we already saw her go from the I'm using my powers to, like, work out these personal grievances versus, no, I'm going to become an Avenger and I'm going to use them for, like, the common good. And now, yeah, she's sort of replaying that conflict again.
Yeah, she's got a lot of collateral damage. It's piling up.
She didn't know she was, like, stronger than Doctor Strange back then, though. You know, you reconsider over time.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. And then the other thing, like, but I definitely appreciate this. I think, like Danielle said, is that it's kind of filling in the blanks with the side characters. Because I feel like, just like with Cap and Bucky, like, the romance between these two was 90% created by, like, fan desire. Like, they just kind of, like, willed it into existence. Like, because rewatching their scenes together in Ultron, like, I guess they maybe had, like, a robot's idea of a flirtatious moment. And that's it. And then you see them in Civil War and they're dating for 2 years. But I feel like between those two movies, it was just Tumblr, like, willing it into existence. So this was good in fleshing out their relationship. I
think they had an uphill battle because the whole like, we've seen a lot more of their relationship is almost entirely defined by them being pulled apart. We've seen very little of them together and almost all them having be tragically separated over and over again. I actually thought one of the best scenes in the entire show, of course, it's the one that's being quoted all the time with is when we sort of flash back to when they were living at the Avengers compound together and Vision just kind of comes into a room. It does a lot in one scene. It's got one scene to basically show us the entire growth of this relationship, like how it went from co-workers to being in love and in running away to Scotland together. And I thought for having to do so much of that one scene, it's actually pretty well put together and effective. And
although I think at that chronologically after that scene takes place, Wanda puts Vision in a big hole so that Hawkeye can escape. A big old hole. You know, hey, a lover's quarrel, a lover's spat. Who hasn't put their significant other in a hole?
Hawkeye was the first Avenger to, like, help her out, man, you know?
Plus, if Vision would have got that paprikash right, then maybe he wouldn't have landed in a hole.
I thought he nailed it. Oh, yeah.
No. She tries it and is like, that's not paprikash.
Yeah. All right, anyways.
He doesn't eat. He doesn't have taste buds. Come on.
What does he know? We'll say more as we watch together the honest trailer for WandaVision.
The following broadcast is rated S for spoilers.
Thank you for that custom graphic, Holtby.
Do you like TV shows? How about a TV show about some TV shows? About some TV shows that is a TV show, watched by the characters inside a TV show. WandaVision, the TV show. You said, huh, when they bonded over their vaguely defined superpowers.
I'm still me, I think.
You know I don't know what this is.
You said, oh, okay, when they dated for 2 years off camera.
Wanda, for 2 years, we stormed these moments.
And you thought, well, I guess that's over, when this happened.
Yoink.
But ever since Cap left Bucky for this homewrecker, Wanda and Vision are the closest thing Marvel has to a healthy relationship, even though she's torturing a small town with her mind.
When you let us sleep, we have your nightmares.
Your grief is poisoning us.
And he's her imaginary vibrator programmed only to love.
You can't control me the way you do them.
Can't I?
Watch this.
I don't know if you could hear it in this playing. And usually we have a policy of there's no altering the clips in any way. This is, after all, honest trailers. We're not kind of adding on. But we did add a subtle vibrator noise to that scene. Just once in a rules are made to be broken, and once in a while you got to just go for it. And I thought that gave it the extra spice in the paprika, as it were, is to have Vision vibrate like that. I also wanted to do a little around the MCU relationship check-in. If they really are the healthiest relationship at this point in the MCU, there's like Star-Lord and Gamora.
Well, it's a Gamora like from a different timeline who doesn't even know him. So
they're pretty
only kinda.
They're pretty far down the list.
Yeah.
Peter Parker and MJ, maybe? Are they together at this point? They are, right? At the end.
High schoolers, though. I don't know. If we can,
they know they know how one another feels at this point. It feels like they're embarking on a new romance. So that seems like it's a pretty healthy pair. What about Happy and Aunt May?
Yeah.
Is he? Because it seems a lot like she's leaving him on red
one-sided,
these days.
but I don't know if we have total confirmation on that.
Tony's dead, so that's an improvement over their relationship in
Tony
the past.
and Pepper, they were pretty solid when we saw them in Endgame. She's reading about compost. He's getting ice pops. It's pretty.
But that's done, unless he's going to be some new Jarvis or something like that.
Hang on. Clint and Laura Barton, very happily married, the reunited, 3 kids. They're on a farm.
I don't know.
Making hot dogs. That seems very.
It's really just a matter of time before she said, "So, what'd you do while we were blipped? What'd you get up to?"
Nice haircut. What's with the tattoos?
What's with all the tats?
A lot of murder for hire. Just a lot.
Listen, he left her phone account active for 5 full years, just in case she ever came back and needed to call him. If that's not true love, I don't know what is.
Learn to
can't go to Mexico. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's like, AT&T was like checking in, like, you sure? And he's like, leave it.
Again, these superheroes are getting away scot-free for grief is explaining away a lot of murder.
He was killing he's just basically just Batmaning in different
people of
cities.
his own. Yeah, he is judge, jury, and executioner. He decided, you make breakfast for the cartel. Well, you get the blade.
You knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, you knew what you were getting into.
Our version of Avengers Endgame that we used for Honest Trailers does not have subtitles on it, and I've sometimes gone back to watch it. So I now have seen Avengers Endgame, and that scene with Hawkeye killing that guy in Tokyo like 5 times with no subtitles. I don't remember what they even say. It's just Japanese.
Yeah, to me. Sometimes that happens because we watch like digital versions of these purchased legally, but sometimes they don't have the subtitles. And I remember I watched it was like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and for about 30 minutes before I realized that they had the apes had subtitles in the real version. It's like, wow, they're really going for this. This is so experimental.
So at this point, I like legit don't remember what Hawkeye and that guy talk about, and I like to invent it myself. I have my own narrative for that part.
There you go. I forgot what we were talking about, so let's just keep watching the trailer.
Watch this power couple cosplay through some of history's most delightful sitcoms. From Modern Family.
It's probably just a case of the Mondays.
To Malcolm in the Middle.
Mom's been weird since Uncle Pietro got here.
To the shows boomers love because they literally had no other options.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you won't get no spending cash.
But every once in a while, this supercomputer manages to calculate something about all this might not be on the up and up.
I have questions.
What is it? How did this happen?
She came here because we're all what?
What was that about? What weren't you telling me? Why are there no other children in Westview?
Am I dead?
Why would you think that?
Because you are.
Because the big question...
I mean, Vision has some selective memory loss, I guess. And is that caused by Wanda, or is that just because he's like theoretically like a baby? He's like 2 years old. But he's like a baby with a dictionary in his brain. So
it's like she created him, like physically manifested some version of him. But I think we were never totally clear on how much of the original Vision was in this new one versus how much was like an original Maximoff joint.
Yeah. I just don't see how...
Yeah. That's how I would make a boyfriend.
Nobody discusses though because they're monitoring from outside the hex. They're monitoring Vision by tracking vibranium, which means that Wanda was able to mentally create vibranium out of nothing.
Well, no, she stole his corpse, right?
No.
No, she doesn't. Remember, in that scene when she's in the plot that was going to be their house and she's overcome with grief, she doesn't have Vision's body with her. He just gets generated out of her via her chaos magic. And my question is, it doesn't even occur to Hayward, like, you just got the goose that lays the golden vibranium, baby. Just like, you can create an infinite supply of vibranium.
Light skin Vision is the Vision from the thing, the corpse Vision.
Right. Yes, he creates white Vision out of Vision's old body, and then it flies away, steal, $3 billion worth of vibranium out of Skylight. Good job, dude.
But I figured that that Hayward's plan would have been something like that. I think I predicted they're using this as a plot for her to generate super beings, and then they're gonna just keep harvesting them out of the hex, as she'll create new ones.
Yeah, which doesn't even seem to occur to him, and it's like, dude, I think you're missing you got to think villain big picture here, man.
Totally.
Really small.
But also the idea that Vision is super intelligent in some respects, but also come on, give him some of the fandom wikis. Have him be I believe I'm inside Three's company right now. This is eerily reminiscent of Malcolm in the Middle. What?
Yeah, to me, it was most shows you're on a straight line. It's you start here and you're going to end up here, and it's a journey to get there. And I don't think there's a problem with this show being we're peeling away layers trying to figure out what's going on. That works. I just feel like it wore out its welcome. It was the same beat over and over of something's wrong in this world. Wait a minute, cut to credits, and then you do that again and again. After a while, it was just all right, let's move this thing forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move this thing forward.
That was my
Keep going.
Because the big question of the series isn't so much what's gonna happen, but more, what the is even happening?
I don't know, and I don't know.
In a story that's really about Wanda's grief and finding acceptance. The acceptance that no matter how original a Marvel thing starts off, it still has to end with a sky beam and 2 CGI dolls throwing particle effects at each other. It's just so meaningful. This reminds me of my own struggles. I'm sorry, I just need a second. But there's more to the show than an expanding red bubble of sadness that makes America great again. Step outside the hex to meet characters like Darcy, the latest phase of Marvel's image rehab campaign for Thor: The Dark World.
So, pause. Darcy's something that I didn't have room to fit it in. It's for all the questions that people have about magic, how does magic work in Marvel? It's so not well explained. Anyone who's good at science can just do anything in Marvel as well. Darcy is a astrophysicist. I imagine she studies stars and outer space and things of that nature. But she's I've hacked past the mainframe. I've unlocked all the files. It's fine if you're good at science. You know a little bit of everything. I think that's been true of Bruce Banner, of Tony Stark, obviously.
It's if you have a career in STEM, then that's it. You can do whatever is required of you. And then even Dr. Helen Cho in Ultra creates the cradle for they're all just everyone in science is a science genius, and you can do anything technological.
And all magic is science. What you call magic, my people call science.
Honestly, there's a science and technology, I feel like they take the time to sort of here's everybody's got a specialty and here's how this works. Magic, they're really at this point just so what color is your ball of goo? It all is just everybody magic is shadowy goo, colored goo balls. And it's
I was a little
purple, but mine's red. Yours is blue. It's
I was bummed out with the goo ball fight at the end because I think Doctor Strange, I don't need it explained, but they made the dueling look interesting of the different portals and then all the whips and the different methods you could use. Magic
Doctor
isn't just
Strange
throwing.
Is really good about imagining things you do with magic during a fight. You'd throw a guy into a portal, or you'd make the building go like that instead of upright. And then this feels you build up a really hot ball of goo and then you fling it.
It's the old Dragon Ball Z school, the grunting and throwing.
It's a little bit like at the very end of Harry Potter, where it's been 8 movies building up to it, and then they just shoot goo out of their wands.
Shoot the goo and grunt. Yeah.
Goo, really? Again? All right.
Just a lot of this on set. Just a lot of.
At least it's better. I will say, goo fights are better than the X-Men Don't do that. That's no.
They're
good.
forehead
Nobody
fighting. Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that.
All right, keep going.
Jimmy Woo, the only cop who's also into close-up magic that anyone could ever love. And Monica Rambeau, who grows from a knowing commentary on TV's Black Best Friend trope into an actual example of TV's Black Best Friend trope.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
And finally, into a superhero who could one day become Marvel's first Black Best Friend trope. In space! Together, they'll take on some brand new villains, like this generic military jerk-ass, Dottie, who... Actually, Dottie doesn't really matter. And the head witch in charge, Agatha Harkness, a well-brewed concoction of 1 part Maleficent and 2 parts Cruella de Vil.
And I killed Sparky, too.
Let your love for Catherine Hahn blind you to the fact that her plan doesn't make a ton of sense, and her past implies that the Salem witch trials were kinda onto something. And despite what her absolute bop of a theme song claims,
It's been Agatha all along.
she barely knows what's going on either.
I need you to tell me how you did this.
I couldn't make heads or tails of it.
It's been Wanda's repressed trauma all along, but Agatha kinda nudged her in that direction. Doesn't exactly top the charts though, huh?
So pause. So what was Agatha doing? So she notices like there's a lot of magic in the area, and she sneaks in. I imagine she snuck in at some point.
Yeah.
And her plan was to just like make her sad enough that she would give up her powers willingly, even though she could absorb them at any time.
Sure. I honestly, like, when you look at it and there are all the things, it's like, oh, it's been her. She's doing all of these things. It's like, well, what did she actually do? They show her at the carnival where, where they did all the really funny Vision and Wanda magic gags, and they show her doing stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what she's doing in this to make any of this. It's just silly sitcom stuff. So other than when she kidnapped her and then kidnapped that guy, Ralph, and made fun of him off camera over and over again, I don't really know what she was doing.
I feel like, and my guess would be that there are a few scenes on the cutting room floor that like transition this better. But like my thought is it's really two things. Like at first she's just investigating. Like for the first half of the show, she's not really taking it. She's just trying to figure out who is doing this and why and how does she have this power. And she doesn't know anything about the Mind Stone or whatever. So she's just thinking this is some witch and she's somehow hiding as she's doing her spells and I need to know about it. And then at some point, like between episodes 4 and 5 or whatever, that's when she's like, okay, it's Wanda and she doesn't know what she's doing. And so I'm going to like convince her. It's a little bit like Mysterio in Far From Home is my read. I'm going to convince her that she can't be trusted with these powers and she needs to turn them over to me for the common good. I think that's what she's trying to do in the end. When she's like, look what you're doing. Heroes don't torture people. Like, you should give your powers to me because I know what to do with them. And it just doesn't work. That's my guess.
Okay. Now, who's making the commercials?
This is an excellent question. I'm really curious about this. Well, it's 2 questions.
Yeah.
It's who's making the commercials, but it's also why, like, Darcy picks up this TV signal that Wanda is, I guess, purposefully sending out.
I think that's probably just a side effect. Like,
is it?
Because her magic, like her subconscious is just like, I'm going to live inside a TV show.
So
and
she's
like
not
the
only
magic takes care of the rest.
So she's not only creating a sitcom for her to live in, but she's creating a broadcast signal like a sitcom would have had.
Yeah, with, I guess,
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That seemed to be the implication of like she was catching the energy and like it was coming in as picture and
as
sound,
a TV signal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, as like audio.
But obviously those commercials were created consciously. Like there's cleverness, there's thought behind it.
No, because I don't think she's doing any of it consciously. Like she's not sitting down and like making a pot of coffee and scripting lines for the next day. Like this is all just happening.
She's a really great comedy writer. Like she should not be in the woods. She should just go to CBS Studios and pitch
she's too powerful. Yeah, the way she's able to balance characters and plot lines
for an entire town off the top of her head in real time. These are thought out bits. This is not just like one-off. Like they're running gags and stuff.
I want to see her pitch deck. I want to see what she's working with.
I want to see her whiteboard.
Impressive.
Yeah. A stories, B stories, C stories, runners.
Yeah, I mean, like Chuck Lorre's taken some time to plan them all out. Even Tyler Perry needs like a day to knock one of these scripts out.
But
she's too powerful.
One day, but yes,
half a day. There's a worksheet.
He could probably do 2 episodes a day at this point, Tyler Perry, but he's an anomaly, all right?
Too strong. She needs to be nerfed.
Yeah, he's too powerful.
Okay, keep going.
You a hardcore Marvel fan? Then you know WandaVision wasn't meant to be enjoyed, but dissected frame by frame to predict what's coming next. As this show spawned a QAnon-style army of forecasters who were so sure that Mephisto was behind it all.
The devil's in the details, Bev.
That's not the only place he is.
Nope, just a deep-cut Easter egg. Evan Peters' casting was proof of the multiverse. Wrong, just an elaborate boner joke.
Boner.
And that the last episode had to have a Luke Skywalker-level cameo.
I work with this actor that I have always wanted to work with.
Oh!
And we have fireworks together.
How about Paul Bettany giving himself head instead?
So pause. I mean, the only one of these that I think felt cheap, or at least like I don't get it, is the Evan Peters casting. Like, unless they're doing some reveal on top of the reveal, like the rumors that they're going to actually like say the Mandarin was actually an actor playing the real Mandarin or whatever. Like that to me goes over the line of like knowing nod or like homage or Easter egg into just like, you're just messing with us. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why you would do that.
I think that they wanted the conversation. Like, it's definitely just there to mess with us for sure. But I think that just knowing we've got Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness and all that stuff. Yeah, they're messing with us. They're just having a little bit of a lark, which seems, a little dickish, but I like it. I thought it was really fun. It didn't bug me as much as I know it bugged a lot of people to be like, well, why would you use him then? Didn't bother me at all. I thought it was like a little fun thing, and I like that he turned out to be Ralph at the end and tied those together.
Yeah, I think that's like the kind of thing I could totally see the writers coming up with and just being like, oh, that's fun. That'll be a fun little thing to do with people. And that you just didn't realize how serious the fan community was going to take it and how disappointed they would be if it didn't work out the way they wanted. Like, I think that it's sometimes hard to predict how intense that stuff is going to become. I thought it was fun. And I sort of guessed, I thought pretty quickly that I don't think this is how you'll introduce the X-Men. And I don't even think they're going to want to introduce the Fox X-Men. So that always seemed like kind of an outside chance to me.
I don't know. I mean, the amount of, and by the way, I would not have noticed these if it wasn't for the WandaVision analysis industry that popped up around it. But the amount of of Easter eggs and deep cuts and references and allusions that they did manage to pack in would give you the impression that like, oh, this is a very thoughtful move on their part, and they're going to pay these things off. But then to be like, boner, like,
but
I love a good boner joke. Don't get me wrong.
In fairness to WandaVision, they had already introduced the concept before we met Evan Peters that everybody in town is just a regular citizen of this town who's being mind controlled. So it wouldn't make any sense. It would make more sense as a viewer to be like, that's just some random guy who's being convinced.
But he had super speed. Like, he had super speed powers. He's just some dude.
It's also not the 50s. Like, the whole thing is magic. It's all magic.
Well, you can dress up and make it look. We can make it look like the 50s right now. Put a filter on. I'll wear a large.
I'll just go.
But not with
Danielle can just go.
Bye.
That's true.
And we'll pour a couple of highballs.
Yeah, but not with your mind. You'd have to physically do it. I'm just saying, it's a magic show. You could just assume everything's got a little sprinkling of fairy dust on it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never thought they were like, oh, this will be how they I don't think Kevin Feige wants to bring the Fox X-Men. He wants to do his own thing.
I just want Terrence Howard to walk in at some point and be like, Colonel Rhodes, like 3 + 3 = 9. Magic. Chaos.
All of the MCU is converting to Terriology now.
Oh, well. Maybe next season. All right, keep going.
Why can't you just accept the fact that the big bad for the MCU's first Disney Plus series was grief? Does Feige have to spell it out on an announcement board or something? So if you've been feeling sad and hopeless lately and just want to mentally check out and fill all the voids in your life with garbage TV, catch the story of a superhero who does pretty much exactly that. And at the end of the day, after all the trauma, follow her to the place all Marvel characters go once their arcs are done. Some lonely-ass cabin in the woods.
Thank you to Eric Goldman for noticing this.
I'm so lonely.
The Marvel retirement plan.
Starring
Dexter as a lumberjack in the back.
I'm a witch, I'm a mother, an Avenger had a brother. Wanda's nose scrunch.
I'll see you at curtain call. That was radical. He had the skin thing. Cuddles and kisses between his little ears.
Weekend at Betney's. What white nonsense is this? Agatha Crispy. A Spectrum representative will arrive anytime between the hours of 1 and 9 p.m. Boner. Save the cat. Woo's Clues. Wrecking Ralph.
The only way Ralph would remember our anniversary is if there was a beer named June 2nd. What Ralph could really use is how to goose your wife so you don't lose your wife. Ralph looks better in the dark, so I'm not complaining. Not that Ralph ever wants to eat anything other than baked beans, which explains a lot about his personal appeal, mind you. You sure you don't want an audience volunteer named My Husband Ralph? Oh.
Hey, would you blow me? Wanda's twin powers activate. Going through Hex. And what is this show, if not joy disappearing?
Do you have a brother, Mom? He's far away from here, and that makes me sad sometimes.
He was killed by Ultron.
Maria died 3 years ago.
Before what? I can't remember my life before Westview. I don't know who I am.
You probably suppressed a lot of the trauma.
You're so crippled by your own self-doubt.
All you people who left still have the luxury of optimism. You have no idea what it was like.
All is lost. I only remember
Pause.
feeling...
Joe Starr saw a cut of this and said, it's too much sadness. And I said, no, it only gets funnier as it goes on.
So much
So you be the judge. I just thought that it's one of those things where when you put it all together back to back, man, the show had a lot of down moments.
I was really only keeping track of like nose scrunches and sad moments, and I still had like a spreadsheet page full. I was surprised.
Yeah. Anyways, let's keep going with the sad.
I only remember feeling completely alone. Endless nothingness.
So much trauma.
It can't all be sorrow, can it?
Parents dead, brother dead, vision dead.
I have a daughter. If you could just let her out of her room. If I could just hold her.
I can't feel you.
Thanks for choosing me to be your mom.
You are my sadness.
Hex in the City. If Wanda ever needs backup, she should just call her neighbor Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon.
I'm too old for this.
Who noticed that? That's a great pull.
I was looking up where they shot it just because I had a feeling that there would be something like this, like because I knew they tried to recreate the old sitcom feel.
Right.
So it's Warner Brothers Ranch, and they've shot a million things there, but specifically that house was Murtaugh's. And then of course, like, I don't know, because modern movie making or TV, it's like they completely digitally altered Wanda's house. Like they removed the second story and like changed some of the decorations on it, like because they could, because they have,
like you do.
Science has gone too far. But Dottie's is exactly Murtaugh's house. That unfortunately on her front lawn, that's where Riggs and Gary Busey had their
big clash. I believe the house is destroyed by an exploding toilet in the sequel.
In the sequel, yes.
Yeah.
In Lethal
Part
Weapon 2.
Part 2.
So we're talking more WandaVision. We're gonna get to all your questions. So thank you for watching so far. Please subscribe, hit like, hit that bell so you never miss another video. And there's more videos to come, baby, because we've got the Fandom 5 trivia contest for the MCU. You probably know your MCU by now, so click the link and sign up and win real money for all that made up knowledge. This should be a fun one. Lon, I'm sure you've got some heaters coming.
Yeah, we try. You know, it's hard for me to tell because I've had to watch these movies so many times at this point, just for all the stuff that we do. So it's hard. It's a little hard for me to calibrate. So I ran the questions by a few other people to make sure they're not too easy or too hard, and I hope they're right in the pocket.
Yeah, and then
some
this
WandaVision in there.
Some WandaVision, of course. Something I'm really excited about this Friday, 10 a.m. Be here, be square, be loaded up on Mountain Dew like we are going to be, because we're watching the Snyder Cut all together as a gang. We'll be watching the whole 4 hours. We'll be commentating. We'll be analyzing. We will be chugging Mountain Dew.
That's real. I just want to make sure people know Spencer's not joking about that.
Do the do with us and get ready for the Snyder Cut experience. Let it wash over you as it will wash over us, and we'll all emerge changed. We'll join us in the sun after we finish the Snyder Cut.
For Dark Side!
Dark Side. I'm genuinely curious. You know, I think that I kind of wish we could take it into chunks, but we're gonna watch it as the auteur intended and do all 4 hours in a row and see what happens.
I feel like, as somebody who's been making a lot of jokes the whole time about this, because how else can you respond to something like this? I'm very excited and curious to finally see it. Like, I'm not that cynical that I don't really want to see what the hell this guy's come up with.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, he can craft a cool visual, but it's all the talking in between that we will dive into and do ourselves up to the gills. Because I'm excited. I haven't had Mountain Dew in such a long time, so I'm really excited to get into that, especially. Moving on, fan questions. We actually have outtakes, I think, for this episode. Let's see what those might have been.
It still has to end with a sky beam and 2 CGI dolls throwing particle effects at each other. The purple goo symbolizes repression. Starring... It was Miss Scarlet with the Darkhold in the suburban mine prison. A witch called Wanda. Lil Uzi Vert. Paranoid Android. Robopop. Why not Synthezoidberg? Double Vision. Even more British Vision. Han Solo. The Long Han. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too. Rambo. First Brood. Teyona Powers. The Quick and the Dead. That's bait. Meta Man. Weird Science, 2 Broke Worlds, We Brought a Woo, Golly G-Man, The Creep State, Swordbish, generic soldier guys walking purposefully around a base.
I want that job.
The Olsen's Twins, Honey, I Spawned the Kids, Nick at Nightception, Magic the Bantering, Kiss Viz Bang Bang.
Thousands of people under your thumb, all interacting with each other according to complex storylines. Wow, that's
the MCU,
baby.
Well, there you go. Some interesting goofy names there, right? That's always fun. But more interesting are your questions. Specifically, Thor Buttocks asks.
Because it's Thor, but also his butt is
Thor buttocks.
It's a play on words.
Yeah, it's like sore buttocks. I get it. So Agnes is living on the streets now, yes, unless the residents, out of hatred for Wanda, decide to help her and try to bring Witch Agatha back.
This is a great point. It's not just that she's stuck in this personality. She can't get a credit card. She has no ID. She doesn't really have a place to live. This is horrible.
She's playing an 80s or 50s or whatever decade she sent her back to. Cartoon character in presumably the real world of Eastview or whatever the town is, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That sucks to be her. Add another tortured person to her long.
I mean, are we imagining that all of those other people are going to like remember everything that happened to that? Like they don't get mind wiped or anything.
They're pissed. They're like,
they'll
get the hell out of town.
Like, oh, that's that witch that's been imprisoned in our town.
Yeah,
yes?
we'll keep her as a pet.
Yeah,
but they won't know she's a witch. All they'll know is like this was another townsfolk that was stuck with us.
Well, no, because they were there for the final battle, right? They don't get their brains deleted.
Were they there for that?
I thought they didn't. People in the town square when Agatha and Wanda are throwing goo at each other.
Interesting. But they'll be like, okay, that person was fighting Wanda. She's probably one of the good guys. Like,
I'm like Kitty Foreman is gonna go home and be like, Red, there's a witch in town, and she thinks she's our neighbor Agnes.
She tried to save us from the one that was torturing our brains.
Yeah.
Let's help her.
I love purple goo. Let's have her come.
Go purple goo.
Can't believe Red has been presumably locked in a closet so she could think she was married to that other guy.
Yeah. Evan J. Pretzer writes, if Marvel or DC could do another period piece, what characters do you want to see and where? Personally, I want 80s Punisher. I would love an 80s Punisher movie.
Yeah. Like New York in like the 70s and 80s, like when it was still really gross and scuzzy. And yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, grimy Punisher for sure.
I always think, like, to me, part of the reason that we can't quite thread the needle on Fantastic Four is that it makes so much sense as like a space age, atomic age, Cold War. Like, it's so 60s to me that, and I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm sure there's somebody out there has a great idea for how to do it. But that to me would be really fun, to be like a throwback 60s style Fantastic Four adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see like a those 90s outdoor adventures that they would do. I think that could be kind of fun with like the Hulk, just because like we used to have all the Power Rangers and making things grow. And I think that could be like a, almost like a Sentai version of Thor, or not Thor, the Hulk. That could be a little bit fun.
Almost like I love this. It would be like taking the classic Hulk TV show
right,
and set it in that era, but like as a Marvel movie. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That could be great.
I always wanted to see, speaking of the Fantastic Four, like I really wish we got Noah Hawley's Doctor Doom movie. I don't know when Victor Von Doom was actually born, like World War I or World War II, right? Somewhere in that mix.
By the Cold War, he's the dictator of Latveria, so it'd have to be, 30 years before that or so.
Yeah. Yeah, and like,
late
he just
30s,
he's a baron or something like that. He's some type of landed gentry before he became Doctor Doom. So I think a period piece for his origin would have been pretty sweet.
He's like a hot duke. It'd be like Bridgerton.
Yeah, it'd be Bridgerton. He would shoot into the air. Okay, anyways, let's see. Jared Johnson wonders how long until we see White Vision again? Does he become a running cameo? I mean, yeah, of course, like no one ever really dies in Marvel until their contracts expire. So I think that he'll probably pop up again. Gosh, whenever they want him to. But I don't think they'll throw him into another TV show. I think he'll pop up in like Captain Marvel 2 or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse.
I mean, him saying "I am Vision" before he leaves is like, well, we've got a new Vision.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like he's definitely going to come back at some point.
Yeah, he's got to go find himself in space.
Right.
Yeah.
He's in a space cabin in the space woods.
Let's see. So James Brophy writes, do you ever worry about doing an honest trailer too soon? I'm curious because how much of this is you guys figuring out what happened and still wiring parts together? I have the opposite worry, is that we wait too long and we've kind of forgotten and nobody cares, and we're repeating observations and jokes that other people have made 17 times before. So I'm more concerned about being stale and repetitive than being too soon. And I think that, I don't know, I think we can be more honest the sooner it is, because that's when it's fresh in everybody's head and you really capture the experience, which for most people was like, wait, what's going on? I don't think that's the honest experience, is knowing every answer about WandaVision when you watch it. Like we're trying to sell you on the real deal here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. Like we don't want to be doing jokes that because this was such a the whole group was watching together. Like this was really like a great example of when we can do appointment television as a group, and Twitter's kind of losing it without it, and we need another one to come back soon. But because of that, there are just like tons of running jokes and a lot of things, and it gets really hard to make sure you're not just repeating stuff that you saw people making the same joke over and over and over again on there. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I in some ways it's the hardest to do stuff like this, that everybody's watching together and making jokes on social media the whole time, and then as soon as it ends we try to do it, because then it's like, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you would most obviously point out are the exact same things everybody's been making their own jokes about for weeks, and you don't want to just retread. So in some ways it's a lot harder to do something like this than it would be, Terminator Dark Fate or some random movie that comes and goes, and then you get to bring your own take to it.
Mm-hmm. And this one, we'll end on this one. This is fascinating to me because I actually don't know the answer. Matan Valensky writes, why do you think that people in charge of heavily theorized series like Game of Thrones, Westworld, Star Wars sequels make the decisions they make? I'm translating roughly here. It's like, do you think that they are reacting to or responding to people's online theories during these hugely popular shows? Do you think that they are ever reading these boards and is that informing what they're doing?
And I think they mean like subverting them specifically. Like it seems like they're going against or subverting what they guess the fan theory is. That's what their question is referring to.
And I mean, my assumption is like, just because of the production schedules and like the way these things are scripted and approved so far in advance, is that it's pretty much impossible to react to fan theories except when you have like a break. Like you can have like between season 1 and season 2,
right?
Then you can catch up. Yeah.
But it's undeniable that the creators of some of these shows that do have these multi-seasons are looking at what people are saying, and then future seasons react. Like Westworld is the clearest example, where they did season 1, it came out, and everybody kind of figured out the twist too early. Like the people were dissatisfied with season 1 because they put together one of the big revelations just by talking on the internet. And so in future seasons, they either didn't hint so much early on that there was going to be a twist, or did other things to subvert the expectations, specifically because they must have gone back and seen what happened in season 1. So I like Lost 2, I think, is a pretty good example of that, where later seasons were obviously reacting to things people liked or didn't like, or, you know, like if the Hurley bird became a huge internet thing, it's like, well, let's bring that back, you know?
Yeah, I do think there's time also, like, because, you know, even if you're greenlit for production and your scripts are locked, like even as they're shooting the finale, I don't know, do you think that they were still shooting when this show premiered, or do you think that everything was completely done?
No,
probably completely done, because there's so much visualization that needs to be done. And
I think they're wrapped. The production is wrapped by the time the first episode debuts for almost any show, certainly any streaming show.
Yeah, so like I guess for a show like this. Yeah, for a show like this and Game of Thrones, and you know, just because the sheer amount of time that rendering takes and stuff like that, everything's done.
The old network system was like the season would begin and they were working like a few months ahead, but they weren't making the end of the season until a few months before it, so the season had already started. But now with 8 to 10 episode seasons total, it's like a film. They make it, they produce it, and then they decide if they want to do another.
But believe me, they are reading and watching, and if they ever come back for season 2, you'll get twice the double Mephisto reveals. You'll get triple the flies. Everyone's just gonna be covered in flies.
I don't know if you saw this week that Feige's been talking about second seasons for some of these shows.
Yeah.
That they're never going to announce in advance because it would tell you too much about where the MCU is going. But he is saying some of them will come back for season 2s. We just don't want to say in advance.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the potential to just do WandaVision, the lost episodes, because it seemed like the TV show was running like 24/7, like that Darcy was watching. There can be so many other episodes.
I would like to see like if you do another season, do drama series instead of like sitcoms this time. Like I'd like to see Wanda do like her take on House.
What's her Ozark?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Law and Order could be great. Like
like that. Like Wanda and Vision recreating like other kinds of shows from the 70s, 80s, 90s.
90s reality TV. That'd be great. Temptation Island, WandaVision. All right, you guys. This was super fun. I had a lot of fun watching and writing this. I hope you did too. And I hope you had fun watching it. So please come back next week when we'll be doing the same thing for a film that some people say should have the glow, but it doesn't. So come back next week for another episode of Honest Trailer Commentaries, and keep checking back on Fandom Entertainment for all the cool stuff we do. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.